real quick. So I downloaded MyFitnessPal, been doing that pretty religiously for almost a month, and the weight difference hasn't been dramatic, but I've lost 2 inches off of my belly, 2 inches off of my belt line, and 2 inches off of my butt. But it's funny how little I care about that and how focused I am on the weight number. Even though, like, in my brain, I know, like, hey, you're stronger, you started doing more weight training stuff or strength work. But, man, our world really revolves around that weight number. There's just no way around it. What? Whatever, let's go race bikes.
Talking about vibes are good. Vibes are good. My feet are warm when I follow hollow socks. Yeah, buddy.
It's possible George is having too much fun. It's possible. I just really want to keep air in my tires today. Like, I did a DIY sealant fill, so that makes me nervous. We're gonna do the voiceover a little bit differently. I am traveling at Fat Bike Worlds this week and editing the video from last week, so bear with me. No green screen and suspect lighting. So we are going to race bikes at SnowCrown Series number 2, and I had so much fun at this race, and it felt amazing to have fun at a bike race, and I loved it. 2023 is off to a ripper. So alright, so we got our start of the race, went okay. I'm trying to remember not to call it a whole shot anymore because I didn't get the whole shot. It was just a start. So I'm slotting in like 10th place, maybe 8th place, somewhere in there. We're going to trade a few spots here back and forth, but not the best start. And if you go back to the beginning, you can see I really screwed it up. There was a hole that I should have just sprinted in to get up there, and I would have been in like probably 5th spot, and that would have been a lot better. But lesson learned, got to be super aggressive in those starts. So this little section, there was like 3 or 4 of these throughout the course where you could kind of shortcut or take a long cut, and there wasn't a huge difference between them. And actually, I pre-rode the beginning, but I didn't catch that was a split, so I went off to the other way. I lost a spot because of that decision. That's okay. So again, I just want to reiterate one thing I've been working on in the off season here. I started my training. I started doing a lot more Zone 2 stuff with Coach Zach's training, and just started our weightlifting stuff again, or strength training, I should say. And that's been going really well. I've also been doing MyFitnessPal, and I'm quite happy with MyFitnessPal. I've been much more dedicated about tracking. If you have watched the show a long time, you know I did calorie tracking last year, and it was okay, but I only stuck with it for a little while. But the macro thing on MyFitnessPal seems much more sustainable to me, and I don't really know why, other than it's more like a game to try to get your protein to hit and your calories to hit, and you got to like balance everything out. It's really interesting to, like a mind exercise almost, on what you're eating. So you really do think about what you're eating, but I'll do a whole video on that some other day, I'm sure. So the start of the race here, you know, things are okay. It's not like a eye-watering, bleeding, heart, lungs, everything dying start. It's okay, but I am definitely maxed out. You can see my heart rate is going to be on my my Wahoo there. It's going to be like 156, which for me is pretty redlined, and it's going to be in there pretty much the whole race. But there's a lot of times watching this and during the editing where I think, gosh, if you just would have stuck it for 10 seconds, If you just would have pushed a little bit of pace, you could have gotten 1 or 2 spots in certain areas, but whatever. And I know that when I'm racing, but to convince myself that I can push for 10 seconds is a whole nother deal. So, but you can see here we're halfway through the first lap, and you know the leaders are right there. There's just a train going. There's really not much you could do, even if you had the strength to pop ahead. I mean, you're starting to see little splits, and we're about to get into a section here where we're going to see a lot more splits. And I know what's happening to the race, but there's not much I can do about it. Yeah. And then I guess, you know, before I get too far detailed into this, I just want to point out I had a lot of fun at this race, and that is so much better. The air stayed on the tires, the bike performed well. I performed better than I think I performed in a long time, so I'm happy with how the race went together. Body, bike, vibes, like everything was really solid. So I feel like I'm turning the corner here, and I have lost not a lot of weight, but I've lost inches off of my gut and my belt line and my butt. I'm down about 2 inches. I've been on the MyFitnessPal for 1 month exactly today, and I'm quite happy with it. So here's where things start to split apart. Jeffy, just trying to get some airtime on the camera, I know it, is going to get a little cheeky here on an inside move. Totally fine pass, no issue there, but he can't keep it. I'm going to take it back. Give it back, Jeffy. Give it back. Stop it. So, here's where things are starting to split up. Now, there was no like big move that I understand that occurred, but eventually Scott and Caden, the 2 leaders, they take off, and I think there was a pretty good gap between 1, 2, and then the rest of the field, if I piece together the post-race commentary correctly. You can see here, I can't quite tell who that rider is. 2 ahead of me here. 1, 2, actually the 3rd rider ahead of me. Clearly suffering, looking for people to get around him, and eventually we do get around him. You can see, here's my heart rate. I slowed it down so you can see 156. And like I see this race splitting up right here, but there's not a lot I can do about it. So I guess if you're watching in a lower category, I would encourage you to think about like maybe the whole race doesn't have to go, you know, full out the whole time, but if you can find areas where you can push the pace for 10 seconds or 15 seconds and then try to recover, you're going to do a lot of psychological damage to the person that you passed, and make sure that you pass them with authority so they're not going to grab your wheel. You want to make them feel bad about their life. And I do that later in the race, but the GoPro died. So I get caught up here with, eventually I do a lot of yo-yoing. I'll show you that toward the end of this little video here. I do a lot of yo-yoing through the race. This is still first lap stuff. And I felt good about the yo-yoing, actually. I felt like it takes a lot of mental effort to keep yourself focused, and I think I had a higher performance overall because, well, a couple things. I had a carrot to chase, so these 3-4 riders that we end up in a pack with are in front of me. Super motivating to stay with them and to think about passing them. So anyway, so that was Mike. We were going by here, and then Jeff and I are going to put in some pace to try to extend this little spot. And I don't know that we move up much, but we're going to get in a little technical section here. And I know coming out of this technical section from my little bit of pre-riding and pretty much same course last year, coming up right here is a long straight section to just hammer pedals, and that suits my strength. But I screwed up coming out of those woods. I was trying to avoid a big bump on the left and cut it into the right, but that really slowed down my exit. And I did a second clip here showing you if I would have gone over the bump and exited wide and stayed wide, I carried so much more speed in later laps coming out of that little turn. And it's those little things you pick up from lap 1 to lap 2 to lap 3 that you just put in your mental bank and be like, okay, when I get here I got to do this, this, and this. It makes a huge, huge difference. So here I'm going to pound out some pace. I'm going to catch Jeff's wheel, and I see this opening up. Jeff can't close that up. I'm going to try to do that for us. And I think we end up, I don't know if Jeff stays with me here. I lose him in the climb that's coming up eventually, but this was so agonizing because this kept I was on Dustin's wheel like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and so agonizing. I was like, oh, it's right there, it's right there, it's right there. But eventually I closed most of those gaps, and eventually I get by Dustin here in the purple, and I end up let's see, I end up getting this ASU rider in purple, myself, and Christian, who's currently behind me, catches us, and it's like 4 of us kind of working together throughout the later stages of the race. I wouldn't say we're working together. I'd say poor Dustin put in a lot, put in a lot of that work to get us back up to the ASU rider, and eventually Christian and I got rid of Dustin. So there you go, tactics, I guess. All right, this was a fun little section. This little section through the woods, so much fun. It was a good time. Thank you, David, for the little shot there. Appreciate that. And an awesome ripping downhill. This is super fun, and it's nice when they keep the courses relatively similar from year to year, because then the pre-ride is not such a difference maker. So I do enjoy that, and I also want to give a shout out to Hilly Haven, the golf course that lets us come out and ride. Is so much. So I'm so appreciative of all the work they put in and letting us come out and ride on their golf course. It's awesome, and yeah, just really cool. I got a season pass just to support the effort. I might only go there once or twice, hopefully more, but we'll see. We're still waiting on a little bit more snow. So here's the big climb. This is kind of the decisive move in the whole race, and I ended up climbing really well. I think we did 6 laps. Is that right? 6 laps, and maybe it was 5. But anyway, the last lap, the second to last lap hurt the most, and the last lap I did okay until the cramps came. So in the last lap, I was right on Christian's wheel going into this, and I could have gotten 5th instead of, I ended up 6th in this race. I just couldn't, I had nothing to give for Christian, and he didn't, it's not like he put a power move on me or anything. He just kind of slowly ground me off the wheel on this climb, and I was done for. Until we reach the top and I get a minute to recover, then in the last lap I did a pretty good sprint to close that gap, and so he beat me by 5 seconds, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But it was a good experiment for me to still be able to sprint at the end, despite what I considered, like, this was a really clean, hard effort for me. That I felt like it was one of my best performances physically, so I feel like between my Fitness Pal and the changes off season to do more Zone 2 stuff and get the strength training back underway, like, I'm feeling really optimistic for 2023, and I hope you are too. And if you're watching this video and you're thinking about doing your first fat bike race, oh my god, do it. It's so much fun. You gotta do it. It's a blast. Absolutely love fat bike racing. It's just a totally different vibe. It's so much fun. It's just so fun. I love it. Oh, this was a big struggle. I was struggling with my sunglasses. Actually, this was not the clip. Two areas I lost a lot of time, actually. Coming up at the end of the first lap, I was dealing with sunglasses. Maybe it was here. I don't know where it was. No, here it is. As you can see, I'm holding them. And I hit a branch, and then Christian's going to go by me like a freight train, and it takes me forever to finally get my sunglasses put away and then to chase those guys down. So I think in the end I should have just ditched the sunglasses at the start-finish lap and picked them up later, hope for the best, maybe get cheaper sunglasses. But that really cost me a lot of time. And then later I took a goo. I have a bento box on the top tube. I took a goo. That took a lot of time. Lost a lot of places for there, but I was happy that I had the second goo. And you'll be happy to know I did not litter. I put it back in my bento box so everybody can chill out. Everything's okay. The earth is going to survive my one goo packet on last year's golf course race. Okay. All right. So this was my group, and we just traded punches. Actually, I traded no punches. I was in the back the whole time. I couldn't lead that group. I was sucking wheel the entire time. So here's the final sprint. Click, 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 click. I just put this in there so you know that I did a little bit of sprinting and a little bit of clicking to get through some gears. So here we're going to finish up. Like I said, I got 6th place. More importantly than any of that stuff, I had an absolute blast. Class act people to race with. There's Paul in 3rd, Scott in 2nd, and Caden in 1st. And then the women's podium, they raced really, really strongly. So it was fun. It was just great to see everybody out. And like I said, I'm recording this in a hotel room because I'm doing Fat Bike Worlds. So stay tuned to the channel, like, subscribe, comment, and buy some Hollow Socks. I'm sorry, buy some Hollow Socks. That's what they are. HollowSocks.com. It used to be Follow Hollow. Now it's HollowSocks.com. I'm still learning. Can't keep up.